time.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which we find out that hate is wrong, but there's nothing more right than my love. And I come to you live from Crater Valley on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to, well, Tuesday. I was about to say Thursday. It's not Thursday, it is Tuesday. For those of you that are unaware, I was unable to broadcast last Thursday, and so this is kind of a makeup stream. It's also kind of a pre-Thanksgiving TED Excellence, because there will be TED's Giving on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, where I'll go over at least one, maybe two, I don't know about three, maybe three TEDx's, just for the hell of it, but that'll be Thursday at the usual time. But for tonight, we are here for a special episode of TED Excellence to make up for lost time, as it were, when I was forcibly taken off of the power grid. But before we get into tonight's presentation, who's joining me on this beautiful Tuesday evening? Keeverdam. Good evening, Keeverdam, and thank you as always for providing the links to the GoFundMes at the top of the chat box, everybody, for our friends AJ, Ron Harushan, Angela Ariaga, and Kristen. You guys can take a look at those, and if you can donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share those out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you, Keeverdam, Den Mother of the chat, for providing those, and good evening to you. Mike R., good evening. The Alexander, good evening. Advocatus Diaboli, good evening to you. Old Guy Gamer, good evening, and I hope everything is going well with your father. I hope so, fingers crossed. Knock for Micah. Good evening to you. Mr. X51, good evening. Kiro Soldier, nice to see you. Oh, Kiro Soldier, thank you so much for the, how's it going, Dogcat Fox? Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Well.
Oh, man, one of my favorites. Tailed feature, one of my favorites. Nice to see you, Kiro Soldier. Thank you so much. Aspie Auntie, good evening to you. Who else is here? Let's see. Scrolling. Let's see. Hi, I'm Steve. Good evening to you. Super Mutant 2099. Good evening. Angelverse. Good evening. The Best Remy. Nice to see you. Jonathan Peterson. Good evening. Dexter's Killer Lab. Good evening. Bridget. Good evening to you. Who else is here? Green Death. Hello. And Adabisi. Hey, long time no see. How's it going, Adabisi? Hope you're doing well. John Trioxin. Good evening. Jamie Melquist. Good evening. Leanna Johnston. Good evening to you. Hi, Scribe. I have interview tomorrow, so here to calm my nerves. All right. Well, slow, shallow breaths. You know, put your hands flat on the table. Just slow, shallow breaths. Everything will be fine. Nice to see you. Draco Wincewind, good evening. Who else is here? Full Metal Joker, good evening to you. And, oh, old guy, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, well, my condolences as to whatever's up. Good, bad, or otherwise, I'm sorry. Oh, well, maybe I can take your mind off it for a bit. Or our speaker can try to, in coordination with me. I guess we'll see. Adabisi, thank you so much. It's not even Thursday. I know. To whom do we owe this large S? I don't know how to spell that big word. No, as far as I'm concerned, you got it right. To whom do you owe? Mother Nature and the condition of the power grid. For having taken me offline and off the grid for 4 days last week. Not fun. But I thought I at least owed it to everybody to make up for that lost Thursday. So thank you so much, Adabisi. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the show. And Random American, good evening. All right, so tonight we have sexism. Yes, everyone, sexism, or the myths thereof, as we look into misandry myths. Now, for those of you who are not vocabularily inclined, misandry, or misandry, depending on how you want to say it, is the opposite number of misogyny, whereas misogyny is the hatred of women, simply on the basis of them being women. Misandry is a hatred of men, usually not for any other reason than they are men, a hatred or distrust of one gender or the other, in this case, misandry. So, what is a myth about misandry? I don't know. That's why we're watching this, because I don't have an idea, but we're going to find out. The only thing that I'll say ahead of time is, whatever is said about misandry, or misandry, I'm going to have to be forced to sort of replace it in my mind with misogyny, because they are two sides of the same coin. So we'll see how that goes as we compare and contrast with whatever our speaker has to say. Now, this could be something completely on board. I don't know. Or it could be some kind of apologia for hating men, denigrating them or something. Could be. Alan Thyler, good evening. And Lena Johnson following up there. Whoops, sorry about that. Thank you. Just had so many interviews and had so many jobs fall through, but will, my favorite chat. Yeah, well, everybody send a little bit of good vibes and support to Leanna for her interview tomorrow. And calm thoughts. And maybe some laughter. Laughter will help. Tonight's bingo card is bingo card A, everybody, as selected on the poll on X. I know I still have the Twitter logo down at the bottom. I'm too lazy to change it. But either way, if you want to follow along with the bingo poll and anything else I have to say on X during the course of the week, just follow me there at scribe_elite, capital S, capital L. And so yeah, bingo card links are in the description below. And with that, Alan Thyler, thank you so much for the happy, smiley Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wow-wee! Wow!
Ooh, it's a drunken Uncle Dogcat Fox. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. But let's get started with this one. It's going for 11 minutes and 27 seconds. It comes to us from Teesside Women. Don't know what that is. And something called the Halo Break the Silence Project. Either way, let me know if you guys can hear this. A couple seconds for sound test. And as the piano goes out, we shall begin.
I'm Chloe.
Hi, Chloe. I'm Scribe. Chloe Laws. Okay. Oh, Pepperjack, I might need you tonight. And you guys hear that okay? Let me know in the comments. Let me make sure I got my bingo card all squared up here. There we go. Oh, a couple more people popped in here. Robert Pincus. Whoops. Well, Ask Me Annie got another one, but Robert Pincus. Good evening. Sounds good. Sounds good. And Faye Alex. Good evening to you. All right, so let's continue with Chloe Laws.
And
and it's a she, her. I just want to note that over on the side there, unless she says it herself, it is a she, her. So in case you were confused, now we know. And as we've learned far too often, knowing is a constant source of disappointment. All right.
I'm Chloe, and I'm a journalist, gender equality campaigner, and poet.
Ooh, a gender equality campaigner and poet. And this is in Teesside, England. England. Hello. Oh, hello, governor. I'm British. Something.
I'm also a feminist.
Uh-oh. Feminism. Uh-oh. Well, hey, already on the bingo card. Let's go to the bingo card. She also said equality, too. Boy, oh boy, we're already going. We're ready to go. All right, so bingo card A. Let's go over the bingo card real quick and remind ourselves what we're listening for. Collectivize his own demographic. Not yet. Systemic or institutional. Maybe. Sales pitch for product or service. Not so yet. Childhood or family anecdote? No. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Circling that one. Oh boy. Plays victim? Not yet. Microaggressions or unconscious bias. Privilege. Contradicts own point or argument. I meant to revise that one. Contradicts own point or argument or fails to make argument, I think was what I wanted to add. Yeah, I kind of got sidetracked the last several days, so I'll have to do that next time. Patriarchy? Possibly. Deceptive statistics? Economic disparity? Feminism? Circling feminism. Marginalized or marginalization? Not yet. A list. Remember, there has to be some kind of formal list as part of the presentation. White supremacy, word salad, self-vilification or wretchedness, weightless example or non sequitur, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase, mind reading or assumes motives, benevolent condescension, anecdote that probably never happened, and lastly, leaves out vital context. I'll also be circling free space because, well, it's free. And so far on the board, remember this is bingo card A. Links are in the description. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Free space. Feminism. We're 3 squares up. We're only 11 seconds into the thing. Holy cow.
I've been a feminist for a big chunk of my life now.
Okay.
Nearly half it. Now I'm 29.
So 15 years, we'll say.
I was inspired by the men and women I grew up around, and their beliefs shaped me.
That's close to a childhood anecdote, but I'll wait for something more specific.
But so did the world around me.
Mm-hmm.
Feminism, to me,
Yes.
is about gender equality and the fight for women and marginalized genders to have that.
Oh, marginalized. All right, marginalization, circling on that. Okay, so gender equality, but specifically women. Why not just say gender equality? Or how about, I'll go even further, gender egalitarianism. Why specify that? And also, what was that marginalized part? Hold on.
And the fight for women and marginalized genders to have that.
Marginalized genders. Well, there's only two genders. So I guess you must be talking about men. Right?
It pushes against traditional gender roles
Uh-huh.
introduced by colonial powers.
Oh, colonial powers. Oh. Not usually as a result of sort of natural inclinations between men and women, since men and women are demonstrably different creatures one to another, but okay, colonial powers. All right.
Which harms all members of society.
Oh, why are you smiling? I always love it when somebody's talking about something that they profess to be terrible, and then they get this like grin on their face, like they're happy they said it. Yeah, I don't want to say it's duper's delight per se, but it sure feels like it sometimes.
Yep, even men in power.
Men in power. Uh-oh, that's getting towards patriarchy. We'll wait and see if she uses the word.
I believe that the world we live in
Uh-huh.
is one that needs people loudly fighting against misogyny.
Ooh, fighting against misogyny. Okay. I would agree. Misogyny, a pathological hatred or distrust of women simply on the basis of them being women, is not a healthy way to live. I agree. As much as can be possible to mitigate or avoid that, I would do so.
And trying to combat violence against women and girls.
How about violence in general? I mean, you know there's violence that's committed against men and boys, don't you?
Because it is an epidemic.
I thought you were for, like, gender equality. Oh my gosh, what's this? I just got a notice. What's this? I've been redirected. Oh my gosh, everybody. Midnight's Edge After Dark are starting to join. They're being redirected here from the Midnight's Edge After Dark stream. I don't know who. They have to make themselves known. Mead Raid! Oh my gosh. Hold on. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to try this. Yeknomino. Good evening. Bill S. Preston, Esquire. Where's Ted Theodore Logan? Excellent. Good evening. Who else is here? John Even Retro Guy Bear. Good evening to you. Anybody else? Sander Hamslog. Or Hammerslog? Sander Hammerslog. I feel like I have to say that in sort of like a Sean Connery accent or something. Tyree Deus. Good evening. Nice to see you. Let's see. Ted forgot to wind his watch. Oh, well, that'll do it. Read by Nature. Good evening to you. Hail to you as well. Oh boy. A Mead Raid, everybody. Yes, if you don't know about Midnight's Edge After Dark, it is a twice-a-week show that I am usually able to attend on Tuesdays, and was able to do so tonight for a little bit, and talk about pop culture stuff, what's going on in movies and TV and comic books and all types of nerdery stuff, and hang out and just kind of geek out for a bit, and was able to do that tonight with Tom Connors and Price of Reason and 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser. 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser. I'll be on his show on December 3rd talking about a James Bond film I have not watched in a long time, License to Kill. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, check that out. Also, Johnny Blaze, good evening. And all right, so anyway, let me back up a little bit, got a little distracted. And for those of you that are new here and just joined, we're watching a TED Excellence on the Myths of Misandry, or Misandry. We're doing bingo. The bingo cards are linked in the description. We're on bingo card A tonight. as the results of a poll. And so far on the bingo card, we have circled diversity, equity, and inclusion, free space, feminism, and marginalization. And we're barely a minute into this. We're at 4 squares circled. Let me back up a little bit to remind myself and everybody else where we were. And then we'll proceed.
It's one that needs people loudly fighting against misogyny.
Right.
And trying to combat violence against women and girls.
Not violence against men and boys, but women and girls, right? Okay.
Because it is an epidemic.
Mm.
Over my career,
Yes.
almost by accident,
Doubt it.
I've become one of those people.
One of those people? What do you mean, those people?
It often hasn't felt like a choice because it feels so necessary.
What do you mean?
How could I watch on and do nothing when every minute of every day in the UK, the police receive a phone call about domestic violence?
You realize that domestic violence can be committed by women against men and boys, right? You do know that, right?
In which 89% of the victims are women.
89% of the reported victims are women. See, men have a tendency not to advertise as often as women. That doesn't mean that what happens to women is unimportant, but let's consider the differences between men and women and gender roles. Remember gender roles? If you're going to hold colonialism at task for defining women's gender roles, will you also give such credit to men?
Being abused by a man.
Mm-hmm.
This summer, this need was confirmed.
Uh-huh.
We saw Kyle Clifford charged with the murders of Carol, Hannah, and Louise Hunt.
Off the top of my head, I'm not familiar with that case.
We saw the media call him a nice guy.
I guess I'll have to take your word for it.
Focus more on Carol's husband than her.
It would be helpful if I knew anything about this case, which I don't, so I'm stuck with just taking her word for it. But is this, I'm guessing, serial killer exemplative of most instances of men in the UK or something?
They tried to say that crossbows were the problem, not male violence.
Crossbows were the problem, not male violence. Okay, well, this guy is an individual, correct? He does not represent all men, correct? You know, just like I wouldn't think of Joan Crawford as representative of all mothers out there, this guy does not represent all men. Or does he in your mind? I wonder, I have to wonder, is our speaker herself a misandrist or misandrist? Angela Arriaga, good evening again. Yep, saw you over on Midnight's Edge. Yes, I guess I gave Tom Connors license to call you Angela, which is only my territory. I apologize. But, all right, so anyway.
I felt sick as I followed the case of Giselle Petticott.
Maybe you shouldn't have done that then. Doctor, it hurts when I move my arm like this.
Who is currently fighting not only her assailants, but the system.
I don't know anything about these cases you're bringing up. I mean, in one way, I appreciate the fact that she's at least mentioning active examples, I guess, of what she's talking about, but unfortunately they're so abstract that I don't have context. Uh-oh, might be circling leaves out vital context soon.
She was routinely drugged unconscious by her husband and raped by more than 50 men, some of whom she knew. Right.
Okay. I just saw the blurb about that story. I think it was in Italy, where this guy, routinely drugged his wife and then had men come in and, unbeknownst to her, watched things happen. I'll be careful on YouTube here. That is an absolute horror story. But is that exemplative of all men or something? When do we get to the myths?
I cried when I read about the murder of Rebecca Cheptegei.
You know, I appreciate the fact that she's a true crime enthusiast. So, I mean, on the basis of where we're going with this, should I think of Susan Smith as representing all mothers in drowning her boys? She just came up in the news recently because I think she was up for parole. which didn't happen, thankfully. What was the name of that lady that left her kid to basically starve to death while she went off on vacation that was prosecuted not too long ago? I mean, do I think of the worst possible examples of human existence on one side of the gender aisle or the other and see them as role models for said gender? I'm happy to talk true crime, and heaven knows I've had a focus of it lately.
Who was set alight by an ex-partner in front of her child.
Okay. Is this normal?
She just returned from the Olympics.
Uh-huh.
I've covered these 3 cases, and ones like them, for places like Glamour, Marie Claire, Stylist, Grazia, Women's Health, and many more.
Okay, well, sales pitch for product or service, circling that one. Not to name drop or anything, but, you know, I have, let me brush a little dirt off my shoulder there. I have been appearing in several publications, just so you know.
I've become a go-to feminist voice in British media.
Oh, well, I'm sure you're very important.
Appearing on Women's Hour, Radio 1, 5 Live.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
And others.
Yes.
I also have a platform called F Girls Club, which educates against misogyny.
Educates against misogyny. Okay, all right. Yeah, you're all over the place. You're a very popular individual. Okay, now we're almost 3 minutes into a 11-minute, 27-second presentation. I'd like to get to your thesis statement.
Now, in doing this work, I come up
work.
against the same label again and again.
Same label again and again. Radical feminist?
Misandrist.
Oh, dang it. I should have known. It was in the title. Ah, well, no psychic moment for me.
I'm told that I hate men.
Well, in categorizing male violence and talking about domestic violence as though it only happens by way of male violence, by bringing up the most extreme instances of men being terrible to women, you're not doing yourself any favors in divesting me of that opinion. But okay, tell me why we're all wrong.
I'm told that my love for women and marginalized genders and my passion for our safety means that I hate men.
Okay, well, if your passion for women and marginalized genders, that means you must have a passion for men, because there are only 2 genders. So if you've already counted women, then the marginalized gender, in this instance, obviously, must be men. Otherwise, and I hate to ask this, what is the 3rd biological gender?
This is categorically not true.
Oh, okay.
My feminism is also for the benefit of boys and men who are harmed by misogynistic socialization.
Harmed by misogynistic socialization. Oh. Okay. Wow. Let's circle benevolent condescension. Boy, howdy. Also, well, I won't circle leaves out vital context just yet. I am going to circle systemic or institutional, because now she's effectively said that with this misogynistic thing and the colonialism thing earlier. So remember, we're on bingo card A, so far circled on the board. Systemic or institutional, sales pitch for product or service, diversity, equity, and inclusion, free space, feminism, marginalized or marginalization, benevolent condescension, and I am certainly inclined to start circling patriarchy here pretty quick, but let's give it a minute.
Whether or not they choose to accept this reality.
Oh, so you know the reality, and you're going to help them whether they know that they're victims or not. Yeah, benevolent condescension was perfect.
Now, as I said, in doing this work, I have built a bit of a public profile.
Yes, no, you listed off your entire curriculum vitae a moment ago and all your media appearances and personal podcasts and so on. So, no, I get it. Again, You're very popular. You're very wanted to talk about these issues.
And sadly, but unsurprisingly, this has resulted in a huge amount of misogynistic abuse directed at me.
Oh my gosh, misogynistic abuse. Okay, well, I mean, it's possible. It's possible. Depending on what you say about men, you might get the same thrown back at you if you're just talking about men writ large rather than pointing out specific individuals. However, I'm going to have to take your word for it. And I also have to be suspicious that you might, I don't know, but I've seen it happen before, you might be categorizing reasonable criticism as misogynistic backlash. Just saying, it's, you know, unless you've got some examples for us. This is where active examples would be helpful.
When a piece of my writing goes viral, I can expect at least one death threat a week in my DMs and thousands of abusive messages.
Anecdote that probably never happened. I know. Unless she's going to provide us with some examples of these. Otherwise, I don't necessarily believe it. Dara Odell, good evening. Hope you're doing well. Let's see, did I miss anybody else in the meantime here? Scrolling. Oh, Midnight's Edge After Dark. Well, it's Tom Connors. Celebrity Tom Connors. I need to get a Tom Connors stinger in here or something. I needed Tom Connors to give me a wowie wow wow so I can give him a dog cat fox or something. That's what I need. I need it. I want it. I crave it.
My appearance is picked apart. My intelligence is questioned. My safety threatened.
Well, at least that second one would not necessarily be an invalid thing to do when you're saying something and someone is criticizing your reasoning. The bookends on that, though, yeah, no good if they are happening. I would be surprised if they're happening to the frequency you're saying so, which is why I circled the square.
So I say I know quite a lot about misogyny. And misandry, although it's a lesser known word, and some of you might not think this sounds relevant to you, trust me, it is.
Oh, okay. Are we finally going to get into the subject matter of this talk? I really, really hope so. Thank you, Dexter's Killer Lab. I'd buy this for $1. Circle list for the Vitae. You know what? You're right. You are correct. Circling a list for the long litany of media appearances and so on. So yes, I'll circle a list. Good job, Dexter. You're correct. I agree. And I'm really getting ready. I got an itchy trigger finger for patriarchy here. If that makes any sense.
It's become the go-to clapback from people who want to silence women discussing misogyny and patriarchy.
Oh, well, hey, there you go, patriarchy. I knew it was coming. Well, here's the thing. So far, you have brushed men, or I should say you've painted men with the broadest brush possible in talking about male violence, talking about the most extreme criminals visiting violence upon women. You haven't distinguished yourself as someone who takes people on a case-by-case basis and instead categorizes all men in some way, shape, or form being either complicit in or helpless but to follow along with a misogynistic worldview. So, is calling you a misandrist really that incorrect?
They use it as an Uno reverse card, flipping the narrative back on us, implying that actually it's feminists who are the problem.
Well, you categorize anything that comes your way as misogynistic, so turnabout is fair play?
So I wanted to share some of the messages I get.
Oh, examples? Okay, well, maybe I'll have to take some of this back. Okay.
And these are the sanitized ones.
Oh, the sanitized ones. Okay. Let's see. I'll wait and see if she reads this whole thing. If not, I will do so.
I'm often told that misogyny isn't real.
Well, misogyny is real.
That women have all the power nowadays.
Well, there is a lot of deferential treatment given to women, certainly, both in politics, the media, and elsewise. Believe all women was the clarion call from 2017 forward, basically up until the Johnny Depp trial. And still, women in leadership, girl bosses in movies and so on. It's kind of been a cultural thing for the better part of the last 10, 15 years. I don't know if you've noticed this.
They tell me I'm a misandrist and that that's dangerous because more men than women get murdered.
Well, more men than women do get murdered. So if you're talking about preponderance of violence upon one gender or another, if you think that's supposed to mean something, then why can't you extend that sympathy to men? I don't know that she's going to read this, so I'm going to read this message. She says this is a message that she received. Misogyny, misogyny, misogyny. That's the only word pathetic women like you can say. Some gold-digging women only date and marry men for financial reasons. This is legal. Does that also make it right? I can't help but feel your article is steeped in misandry and resentment. You are only jealous because you aren't getting the attention you once got. Unfortunately, if it is legal and consensual, then it's really none of your or anyone else's business. Okay, well, I don't know what this is in reference to, purportedly one of her articles or something, but I don't see any direct ad hominem attacks there. It's just criticisms of her opinions. So...
And that's dangerous because more men than women get murdered. They don't mention that it's men doing the murdering.
What does that got to do with anything? Would it make you feel better if it was women murdering the men? The hand from which the violence is coming somehow makes the people receiving the violence not real victims or something? What?
The irony is clearly lost on them.
I guess it's lost on me, too.
That they are partaking in the same misogynistic violence they claim isn't real.
Okay, she's got more comments up on the screen. I'm guessing she's not going to read these as well. And since she's not telling us what these comments are in response to, I'm circling leaves out vital context. But here are the comments for those of you listening at home. Number 1, let me guess you are upset because you are past your prime. Okay, number 2, no dumber person on the planet than a liberal white woman. Okay, number 3, fat women love immigration because they instinctively know it tilts the sexual marketplace in their favor. The more single men there are, especially low-status single men, the greater the odds for the porcine female. Jeez. Ouch. And lastly, don't be so full of yourself. You're... the wrong kind of you're not special, and you deserve to know. Okay, so 3 of them are just criticisms, not very friendly ones, of your attitude and or your character. The 4th one, I'll just let that sit. Okay, so those are your big examples.
It's also lost from them that fighting misogyny leads to better educational attainment and mental health among boys in school.
Well, wait a second. Fighting against misogyny increases... Wait, let's try that again. Say that one again.
Educational attainment and mental health.
Educational retainment and mental health is improved if boys fight misogyny.
Among boys in school.
Okay, and now we have 3 more comments on the screen. Again, no context whatsoever for any of these. I think maybe you should do some clothing or makeup content. This kind of content is for adults. Ooh. Number 2, as hollow as Cheddar Gorge. I don't know what Cheddar Gorge is. That might be some British thing. And lastly, you're such a cozy dunt. Grow up, little girl. This is... And also, I love the fact that 2 of these comments are from user blah, 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 random number. But, yeah, this may be... Here's the thing. And I've learned this lesson long time ago. Sometimes I falter, but I do my best. The internet and comments thereon only have as much power as you provide them. They're only words on a screen. That's it. You know, there's only one harmful word in all of the universe, and it is muad'Dib.
So throughout my career, and because of the messages I receive like this, I feel that I'm qualified to say the following.
Oh, because you got shit talked to on the internet, you're qualified? Well, hell, what degree do I have? What certificate can I hang on my wall for the last, good gravy now, what is it, 25, almost 30 years of being on the internet? Do tell.
Misandry is not a threat.
Misandry is not a threat. What, the pathological hatred and or mistrust of men simply on the basis of them being men? You mean the entire toxic masculinity narrative that's been going on for years and years now? You mean an entire generation of boys and young men who have been vilified by society and the media on the basis of what they are and not who they are? The increased numbers of suicides amongst men and young boys over the years? Sure, misandry's not a threat. Sure. I totally believe you.
At its worst, it hurts the men's feelings.
No. At its worst, it destroys men utterly. Let me ask you something. I know, I kind of said this at the beginning of the before I even started the talk. I hadn't watched this before, so I don't know what she's going to say. I made a note, if you'll recall, that let's also consider the opposite side of this same coin and just replace the word misandry with misogyny. At its worst, misogyny just leads to hurt feelings. Now, do you think our speaker would accept that conclusion? If I said that to her, if I said, misogyny really only leads to hurt feelings, what do you think she would say to me? If you are diminished, if you're reduced down to a nothingness on the basis of something you have no control over, in this case, gender, or extend that off to race, what do you think that does to someone over time? How do you think that might grind down people over time? If they're told they will never be good, they will always be flawed, they will always be held to suspicion, they can never be truly loved because they are a walking original sin. What? Only hurt feelings, you say? I think you might actually be a misandrist because you're making apologia for the worst outcomes of that philosophy.
Misogyny, on the other hand, kills women daily.
Misogyny kills women daily, but misandry is just hurt feelings. Okay. Mind reading assumes motives. Circling that one. And plays victim because of all of her internet comments. And collectivizes own demographic because she's only talking in broad generalizations here. Yeah, I think that's decent for a moment.
One is a structure, the other is a reaction.
Which is the structure, which is the reaction?
Misandry at present is only a reaction to misogyny.
Oh, if it weren't for all the hateful men, there would be no hateful women, because women are incapable of hating men all on their own. So misandry is justified so long as you can classify anything that comes your way that you don't like as an example of misogyny. Oh, okay. Let's see. Contradicts own point or argument. Circling that one.
So let's look at the 4B movement in South Korea, for example.
The 4B movement. Well, this took place before the election, but okay, what's the 4B movement?
It was born around 5 years ago, and it's based on 4 principles, where
Principles, you say? All right.
women reject heterosexual childbirth,
Women reject heterosexual childbirth. Is there another kind of childbirth? I mean, I guess there's IVF. Sure. Turkey baster. All right.
Marriage.
Marriage. Okay.
Dating.
Dating. Uh-huh.
And sexual relationships with men.
And sexual relationships with men. So a woman effectively taking herself out of the gene pool by her own volition. So, femcells, you mean?
In 2016...
Actually, no, not even, I mean, they're not even incels. Like, incels are, by definition, involuntary celibates. These are voluntary celibates. So, vocels? Voluntary celibates? Celibates? Vocels. I'm gonna say vocel. VOCEL. Yes, they're very, or vocal. Hey, there you go, vocal. They're very vocal women.
Intimate partner violence was recorded at 41.5% in South Korea.
In South Korea? All right, well, there's a statistic. Is it deceptive?
This statistic makes it clear to me the reasoning behind the 4B movement.
Okay, deceptive statistics, circling that one. You're cherry-picking something and saying that this somehow qualifies as a reality check or something. All right.
It is a reaction to misogyny.
Oh, right. It's sort of like it's okay to be racist if other people are racist first. All right, yeah, fighting fire with fire. Yeah, misandry wouldn't exist without misogyny. Obviously, no woman could just decide to hate men for the sake of hating men without first experiencing misogyny. Yeah, okay.
However, many have dubbed it as misandrist.
Well, I mean, if you hate men simply for on the basis of them being men rather than... I mean, hating an individual for individual actions and individual behaviors and so on, that's understandable. Again, taking an entire demographic and calling them bad inherently for what they are without considering individual characteristics, that's stupid.
As a hatred of men.
Yes. That's by definition what misandry is. It is a hatred of men. It is an inherent pathological mistrust or hatred of men.
This is not true.
Yes, it is true. It is the definition of the word. What are you talking about?
When we look at incels, I imagine you all think about men, right?
No, yes, I guess technically. But in this case, we've got a whole new category you've discovered for us. Vocals.
Well, by definition, there are also women who are involuntary celibate.
Involuntarily celibate? Sure. Because they're not attractive, have no social skills, don't know how to talk to people. And I mean, and I'm not judging people on that basis. I have questionable social skills in the sense that I'm shy. You know, I've not been, you know, some kind of player in my life or anything. So I don't. I mean, obviously, the term incel has been applied, and rightfully so in a lot of situations, to people who are very terrible people, who use their own lack of social skills or their diminished self-confidence and everything else to blame the world for their problems and so on. So it's a term that has taken a meaning that is something that is decidedly undesirable. But sure, if we're just going by the definition, suddenly we're going by a definition, but we're not going by the definition of misandry. Yes, there are people out there who, by circumstance, by whatever elements are preventing them from connecting with somebody else on an intimate basis, are not making whoopee even though they want to. Both men and women. Okay.
AKA incels.
Yes, I got it.
But we call them femcells, and their existence is entirely different.
Oh, you call them femcells? Why? Wait. So involuntary celibate has no gender marker. It is a neutral term. But you decide to give women a specific term based on gender. Why? Why bother? It's the redundancy department of redundancy.
Incels have become a global threat.
No, individuals within that demographic can be threatening. Again, you are painting with the widest brush possible.
With many defining it as extremism and terrorism.
Yes, it has been attributed to that, and there's been plenty of actors that would call themselves such. So, I see. So you're creating this new term, femcel, because obviously women would never do anything terrible out of anger or frustration about their intimate or lack thereof lives. Is that it?
In 2014, Elliot Rodger...
Oh, for crying out... Of course, yeah. Let's go to the absolutely worst possible example of a human being. And this represents all incels. That represents all men.
Stabbed and shot dead 6 people in California, blaming girls who rejected him.
Uh-huh.
Since then, numerous incel attacks have been carried out on...
It's true. There have been several men who have been connected to the quote-unquote incel movement who have done terrible things. It's true.
Under this ideology.
Sure.
Like Jake Davison, who in Plymouth in 2021 murdered 5 people, including his mother and a 3-year-old girl.
And so, you know, it really feels like, and we've seen many TEDx's like this, where you have somebody on stage in front of an audience trying to not only convince the people in front of them, but in a way also convince themselves that the exceptions and the justifications they are making for their own way of thinking are valid. That it's okay that I hate men because look at all of these horrible men that are out there. Misandry is completely justified, it's completely reasonable, given all of these specific cherry-picked examples I've given you and myself. So if somebody calls me a misandrist, well, not only is it not true, but even if it is a little bit true, it's completely justified, guys. But really, misandry doesn't do any harm. It's just a natural reaction to how terrible I'm treated as a woman. I guess. But of course, if we applied that same logic to a man who would say terrible things about women because he's been terribly treated by women, our speaker would have, I'm guessing, and I am only guessing here, 0 sympathy for that perspective.
There's no concrete statistics, but it's believed around 100 people have been murdered under incel ideology.
Sure, 100 people under incel ideology. How many children have mothers killed in the same time frame since Elliot Rodger? How many of their own children or children related to them have women killed since Elliot Rodger did his rampage? Is it less than 100? More than 100? How many men have women killed since Elliot Rodger went on his rampage? Is it less than 100? More than 100?
Mostly women and girls.
Mostly. Oh, so not all. Oh. So wait, if an incel kills a man, what do you do with that information? Does that man's life, having been lost to the hands of an incel, not count? I guess I have to wonder.
Femcells, by contrast.
Right, because femcells are totally innocent, completely justified, and, you know, they sit out in the woods and birds fly onto their fingertips and deer and rabbits gather around them, singing songs.
Have been linked to 0 murders.
Femcells have been linked to 0 murders. Oh, so they're the good I hate men because they won't sleep with me type of people. Oh, okay.
They are largely non-violent.
Wait. No. I say no.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
No, largely non. You don't get it. So some of them are violent. I'd be surprised if she gives us a percentage, if she even could possibly make it. But even she apparently can't let herself get away with saying they are 100% non-violent. So, for those femcells who do end up committing violence, well, don't they exemplify all femcells like Elliot Rodger? And who are they violent towards?
And they are not operating in the same militarized way.
Not in the same military. Oh, yeah. No, they have to buy a slightly smaller size of flak jacket when they go out to exact their revenge on the world and men in particular for their frustrations. Boy, howdy. This sounds like the pink tax, doesn't it?
One of these things is not like the other.
You're right. It's not like the other, but let me ask you something. Is it similar enough to be indistinguishable from the other?
Misandry is not like misogyny.
It is exactly like misogyny. It is the polar opposite from misogyny on the gender scale. It is a pathological hatred or mistrust of men. Here, let me look up the actual definition just to make sure I'm not fooling anybody or myself. Misandry, dislike of, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against men. Okay, now what is the definition of misogyny? Dislike of, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against women. They are one and the same. The only difference being which gender you are pathologically inclined to hate. Okay, I'm circling microaggression's unconscious bias on the basis that her own bias here is at play. And she's not even willing to fess up to it. Not even willing. Let's see. Weightless example, non sequitur. Yeah, femcells are largely nonviolent. Largely nonviolent. And with weightless example being circled, do you know what just happened?
Bingo!
What? Bingo! Yeah!
Of course!
We have a bingo from the O down. You know why I know ahead of time, unless something drastic happens. You know I know ahead of time we're not going to get a blackout on the bingo card. Self-vilification or wretchedness. I would be utterly amazed if at any point in the course of what remains of this talk she denigrates herself. I'd be shocked. Shocked, I tell you.
We see femcells as the pinnacle of misandry.
We? I don't know that we do that, but okay, for the sake of stipulation and argument, fine. Femcells are the pinnacle of misandry. So they do commit violence against men.
But actually, many of them became femcells after experiencing traumatic relationships with men.
How do you know that incels didn't become incels after traumatic relationships with women? I mean, Does that justify it on one hand but not on the other? You see, here's the problem our speaker has continually run up against. Everything that she says in defense of misandry can easily be turned around in defense of misogyny. She doesn't want to admit that. She keeps trying to make exceptions one to the other, but it's unavoidable. So if you're saying it's okay to be a misandrist because you got mistreated by a man at one point in your relationship history, well then any man who then becomes a misogynist because they were mistreated by a woman in their relationship history is similarly justified, correct? Of course it's not correct.
And they felt safer just withdrawing.
Well, and if a man does the same, then what?
So misandry has become a popular buzzword in modern culture.
I don't know if it's popular. We're not happy that it exists.
And it's been given legitimacy in academia.
It is as legitimate as misogyny in academia. You know, there's this, I actually have a tattoo of this. I know, for those of you that don't know, I have 5 tattoos. I have a tattoo on my left arm, my forearm, of a, what you would call sort of like a triglyph. Okay, this is a symbol from symbolic logic. Imagine an equals sign, except it has 3 lines instead of 2. All right. And so what happens is if you put a value A on one side of the symbol and a value B on another side of the symbol, what that symbol means is that these 2 things, whatever they are different, right? But in contrast and comparison, they are so similar as to be effectively the same thing. Misandry and misogyny are 2 different ways of thinking about the world. However, they function in exactly the same way, just from different directions. They are on equal footing. Each of them is no more or no less valid or invalid than the other. No more and no less damaging one to the other, to the opposite gender. Our speaker wants you to believe that it's okay to be a misandrist. It's not okay to be a misogynist. That her misandry is completely logical and justified. Her hatred of men is actually something that we have to feel sorry for her because she doesn't want to hate men, but she's forced to. She doesn't have any desire to hate men. She just has no other choice, guys. She has no agency of her own. It's the forces above her pressing down and making her hate men because men are obviously terrible for what they are. And there's no argument. And women are not terrible in any way, shape, or form. So, one philosophy is completely illogical, and the other philosophy is entirely logical and justified. All right.
That has trickled down into incel chat rooms and far-right circles online.
Uh-huh. And what about femcel chat rooms?
However, despite this, there's very few explorations of what misandry is.
I got one exploration for you. The dictionary definition, which mirrors misogyny. It's not a complicated concept.
What does exist accepts it as the inverse of misogyny.
Yes, it is the inverse of misogyny. One is a pathological hatred or mistrust or contempt of women. The other one is a pathological hatred, contempt, or mistrust of men. They are 2 sides of the same coin.
The dictionary definition literally presents them as the same.
Because they are the same. They are different, but they are the same. You know what I mean? Again, the 3-barred equal sign from symbolic logic.
For example, There's a book called Spreading Misandry.
A book called Spreading Misandry. Do I need a butter knife?
The teaching of contempt for men in popular culture.
Uh-huh.
The
Yeah, it's like toxic masculinity. Please bring up toxic masculinity.
authors, Paul Nathanson and Catherine Young, in it,
Oh, a man and a woman? Uh-oh.
say that unlike misogyny, misandry is acceptable in society.
Yes. Misandry, or diminishing, denigrating, making fun of men, is quote-unquote more acceptable. You know why that is? Because men can oftentimes take it, and or they have no choice but to take it because to retaliate wouldn't look good upon them. Because of, those colonial stereotypes and gender roles that have been imposed upon us. You know how oftentimes men, in acclimating to one another, will denigrate one another. This just happened the other day on Midnight's Edge. For those of you that are here for Midnight's Edge, I was on Midnight's Edge in the morning, and Paul Chatto, at the beginning of the show, in being introduced to everybody, said, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, he said, "I'm glad to be on this stupid show." Right? This show that has been put on 3 times a week for who knows how many months and years now by Andre and Tom. And everybody there, including the people that run the show, took it in stride. And we made a running gag of it. And we called each other stupid. We referred to this as stupid and that as stupid. Because oftentimes men can take a joke. It builds up our tolerance one to another. It's a way of communalizing. I don't even know if that's a correct word, but either way, I'm an English major. I can make new words. I have a diploma. Communalizing one to another, associating, right? Women do this too, but not in quite the same way. Because here's what happens. When you lift weights, when you exercise and stuff, what part of that process is? It's technically damaging your muscles to a certain extent. It's putting stress on your muscles. And as a result, your body heals those stressors and your muscles become stronger for the mild, repetitive damage. This kind of humor, this kind of tearing down and building oneself up again, this creates resilience. This creates a sense of belonging, a sense of cohesion. It's different for men than it is for women. I don't know if our speaker understands that men and women are 2 different animals and they react to different things. Men oftentimes both can take a joke and have to take a joke.
Both morally and legally.
Let me back up a little bit there just to make sure I didn't lose any context.
And in popular culture. The authors, Paul Nathanson and Catherine Young, in it, say that unlike misogyny, misandry is acceptable in society.
It's definitely given more credence or permissibility. I don't know if that's a word either, but again, I have a diploma.
Both morally and legally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I want the Equal Rights Amendment to pass, the ERA. Because you want to talk about disparities in sentencing for the same crimes. You want to talk about disparities in parental rights and freedoms thereof between men and women, mothers and fathers. Yeah, there are certain things that I would like far more leveled on the playing field in our world. And the ERA is one way to get there.
That's laughable to me. How
Oh.
could anyone say that misogyny is unacceptable in society when it's everywhere?
Well, I guess it depends on how you categorize misogyny, because nearly every comment I saw that you brought up as an example was directed at you, the individual, and not necessarily women writ large. And of course, I don't even know what they were commenting on because you wouldn't give us any context. So even those that were possibly misogynistic in intent, I have to take it on faith that they were, because I don't even know what they were talking about. So, you want to think about that for a second?
It's in our homes, it's on our TVs, it's in our newsrooms.
How? Give me an example. Not something somebody said to you sideways on the internet. Give me an example.
It's in our police forces, it's on our social media feeds.
Okay, social media is not a legitimate source for complaint. Show me something systemic, societal, or otherwise that is inherently, provably misogynistic. I'm not saying there isn't such things out there. But if there is, our speaker, the expert, how she does this work all the time, should have at least the top 3 right up at the top of her head.
Misandry, by contrast, is practically invisible.
Is it? Have you heard of toxic masculinity? Have you seen television shows, commercials, where the man is often the dunderhead and the butt of jokes? Have you seen these things? I don't know if you've seen where most comedies involve men being made out to be idiots, which we can generally accept because men can take a joke most of the time. But I don't know if you see that. I think you've probably blinded yourself to that.
Both in popular culture and the real world.
Really? Are you sure about that?
But let's take their statement and see if it's real.
Okay. I'm sure that whatever you're about to say is completely objective.
Can we answer the following questions?
Ooh, oh boy. Get ready, guys. Audience participation. Are you ready? I know I am.
Can you name a country where young boys are legally allowed to marry adult women?
Well, what do you mean by young? I mean, you're talking about like below, like what are you talking about? Can I name a country where young boys are allowed to marry adult women? The United States. Canada. What? Okay. You need to get more specific.
Where 1 in 3 men are sexually assaulted by a woman.
Where 1 in 3 men are sexually assaulted by a woman. You know, if 1 in 3 women were sexually assaulted by a man, if you're talking about Britain, the UK or elsewise, I want you to look up Christina Hoff Sommers and the 1 in 4 or 1 in 5, I guess you've decided to up the game to 1 in 3, sexual assault claim. I would love to know your sources for this one. But of course, I don't know where you're talking about. 1 in 3, a third of the female population. Okay.
Where the majority of men are murdered by women, not men.
What do you... So, with each of these questions, you are further justifying your misandry. Is that it? Because the proportions are stacked one against the other, then it's okay to... This is a God of the gaps theory of statistical analysis again. Except in this case, it's not so much proving a cause of the disparity. Instead, it's justifying a philosophy as a result.
Where men cannot wear what they like.
Where men cannot wear what they like. Saudi Arabia. Iran. Can you imagine a guy wearing a feather boa and a rainbow flag walking down the street in Iran? I just a thought.
Where men cannot leave their homes without a female chaperone.
Oh, Jesus. Uh-huh. Okay, so again, all of this is to say your misandry is completely rational and justified.
Where women dictate what jobs men can and cannot do.
Yeah, I know. Women really suck at leadership. Yeah, why is it? Why is it that all these things end up with women in the subservient position?
The answer to all these questions is no.
No, the answer to those questions is not no. A young man can marry an adult woman in the United States with parental consent. I don't know if you know this. In most places, if you have parental consent at the age of, I think it's like 14 or something. I think it's a state-by-state thing. With parental consent, a young person can marry an adult person in the United States. In a lot of instances. Of course, I guess it depends what you mean by young, because you didn't say. There are plenty of countries where the society, the strictures, the laws, and so on would severely punish anybody who decides to operate outside of a approved dress code or way of behavior. So, no, most of the answers to your questions are not no. But at the same time, none of them justify a hatred of men for being men.
But when we reverse it and look at misogyny, the answers are a harrowing and resounding yes.
Okay, so again, all of this is to justify to yourself and society that your misandry is good.
In recent years in the UK, a woman has been killed by a man on average every 3 days.
Okay, how many men have been killed by other men? Do the men that end up dead by the hands of other men, shouldn't they be immune from that kind of violence?
Male violence against women is a leading cause of premature death for women globally.
Right, so all men are terrible. I'm just gonna, conclude with every statement she makes that all men are terrible. Yeah.
This year alone in the UK, the number of women whose deaths have led to a man being charged has now exceeded 50.
All men are terrible.
The actual number will be considerably higher. This is just who's been charged.
All men are terrible.
Between 2022 and 2023 in the northeast of England, 72% of domestic abuse victims were women.
Oh. So 28% were men? Oh. Is that an acceptable percentage for you? And only reported. Only actually confirmed. We're not going to mention the possibility that maybe there's a whole swath of unreported abuse against men. No. Because as we know, from the way that men behave and also how they've been conditioned by society, all men would report that they'd been abused by a woman.
About 90% of homicide suspects in England and Wales are men.
Okay. Tell us about suicide rates between men and women. How many murder victims are men versus women?
So when we look at all the evidence,
When we looked at all the cherry-picked, biased, preconceived conclusion evidence, yeah. Thank you, Snubbirth. Holy cats. Good evening, Snubbirth. Nothing's changed. Unless we are gay, non-white, or on the spectrum, women's rights activists will always see us as the enemy. Even then, it's trends, not genuine empathy. Yeah. What our speaker doesn't seem to want to admit to is that believing someone is bad inherently for something that they have no control over and is not a determinative factor of character is in and of itself a stupid way to look at people. Same as racism. But again, this entire tirade is to try to justify to herself and the world that she's okay in hating men. Because men are just inherently bad.
The truth is that women do not hate men the way that men hate women.
You're right. You know why I say you're right about that? Is because, unlike you, I don't see women as a monolith. I don't see men as a monolith. But you really, really need to, don't you?
Misandry is not a threat because at worst it hurts a men's feelings.
Right. Remember, everybody, misandry, absolute hatred of men, at worst, only hurts men's feelings. There's never been a case where a woman has hurt or killed a man or men on the basis alone that they were men. It can't never go that far. But even if it doesn't go that far, the worst that happens is some hurt feelings. You know, there haven't been any children who have been abused or murdered by their mothers because they happen to be male and not female. Never happened. There is an ongoing abuse right now when it comes to trying to alter either the chemical or psychological status of boys to become girls. No. That's just hurt feelings. That's all that happens from that.
Misogyny, on the other hand, kills people daily.
Right. And thus all men are guilty.
The oppressed cannot oppress the oppressor.
Here we go again. Right. Racism is okay because I'm on the lower end of the stick of it for committing it. Boy, oh boy.
I'm not telling you all this just to depress you.
No, I know you're not telling us to depress us. You're telling us this to make yourself sound like a hero for hating men.
I want you to leave today and push back up against these unhelpful narratives and red herrings.
What, you mean your entire talk? Okay, circling word salad. If it wasn't already justified, it is now.
Because misandry is so often brought up as a way to distract women, talking about very real misogyny.
Yeah, you can talk about misogyny from an individual basis, unless you've got some evidence of systemic problems, which you didn't actually offer. But okay.
It's whataboutism and almost always a red flag.
Really? Do you want to consider that possibility for yourself at any point here?
We must not equate the two things.
They are equitable. They are two sides of the same coin by definition.
It invalidates and disrespects all the people who have been abused, harmed, murdered under misogynistic violence.
You have just diminished anyone who has ever been harmed by someone who hates men. And notice I said someone, because you could have a man that hates men. You could have a woman that hates women. Do you understand that these philosophies, though gender-specific in their targets, are not necessarily gender-specific in their possession?
Misandry is a myth.
What? Oh, this is all leading up to?
What?
What is that? What the fuck is that?
Misandry is a myth. It just doesn't exist, guys. This thing I've been working for the last 12 minutes to convince you I'm completely justified in committing in thought and word, deed, and otherwise doesn't actually exist, guys. No, it's true. It's like reverse racism. This is where we're at. Misandry is to reverse racism as misogyny is to racism. It's actually a myth. There's no such thing. But in fact, there is really no such thing as reverse racism. There's just racism. But that's what she's trying to do here. It's not working.
And those who try and drum up hysteria about it are disinformation actors.
Oh, and you're see, again, she's smiling about it. As she says this terrible, terrible thing, as she informs us of this evil scourge to our society, she's got this smug smile on her face. It's great. Thank you, Keeverdam. It's a Mythandry. Oh! Good one. That should have been on the thumbnail. That's great. Thank you, Keeverdam. You get the new buzzword buzz phrase for the evening. Mythandry. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh,
Very quiet little thank you. Well, thank you. All right, everybody. That is the talk as we have it. Holy cats. What can I say? Quite the mental, moral gymnastics taking place there for her to come across as some kind of hero. All right, so this is the card as I have it right now. I'm going to go over these squares one more time by myself. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, hold on to them. I'll get to you momentarily. Childhood or family anecdote. The closest she came was right at the beginning where she talked about growing up with people around her, etc. and so forth. And it's thin, but it does count. She did refer to her growing up, etc., role models and so on. So I'll give you that.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
Okay, so there's another bingo. Let's see. Okay, privilege. I mean, throughout this entire thing, men have the privilege of not being the victims of domestic violence. Men have the privilege of this, that, and the other. Every statistic she brought out that had a disparity between the number of women versus the number of men was an inherent male privilege of not having to experience this, that, or the other. So, yes, that is also a double. Bingo.
Won't somebody please?
Bingo. B-I-N-G-O.
Okay!
Right?
Bingo.
What?
Of course!
All right, moving on. Economic disparity. I don't think she ever brought up economic disparity. I'm trying to think. Obviously, disparities between men and women in general, society, and so on. Status, prominence, but economic? I don't know. White supremacy. She didn't bring up race. I can't recall a time in this entire talk that she brought up race. It was just gender. Self-vilification or wretchedness. Nope. In no way, shape, or form was she ever the bad guy. And lastly, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. Not that I saw. And her attempting to dilute the definition of misandry, to me, doesn't constitute a new buzzword, buzz phrase. I didn't hear anything new there or something I like to call. Didn't hear anything like that. So let's see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 bingos thus far. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, they're going to have to be good ones, because I'm not sure that there's much left to go over here. But I will entertain them as we go. So if you have an argument for a square to be circled, please just tag me in your comment. If I've already missed it because it's moved up on the chat, please just repost it. Femcell. See, I'd heard Femcell before. I don't want to credit her with making up that new buzzword buzz phrase, because I've seen that used elsewhere. So I'm hesitant to give her credit on attempt to coin new buzzword buzz phrase, because that's not hers as far as I know. Assassin of the Grey, Duper's Delight for gaslighting needed. Well, yeah, maybe. Let's see. Austin, I think Femcel's a 4chan thing. I'm pretty sure I'd seen it back in the day at some point. Excuse me. But like I say, I'm hesitant to credit her with creating that or pushing that as some kind of new thing. Superior Nav, who is she? Her name is Chloe Laws. And as far as what she does, all I know is that she's been quoted and or appeared in many magazines, TV shows, and so on, talking about gender equity or something. I'm guessing she's a blogger or an article writer, or I think she said she was a journalist at the top of this. Not quite sure. Never heard of her before, but thank you again, Keeverdam. Also, fun fact, the word incel was coined by a woman. Her name was Alana. Well, that's just an example of mythandry, I guess. Thank you, Keeverdam. Advocast Diabli, white supremacy. She mentioned the colonial power did this, and they were all white. Oh, oh, good call. Yeah, no, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. All right. All right. Well, we're one step closer to a couple of bingos. If anybody's got an argument for any remaining squares, you better have a really good one. It's going to be an uphill climb on this one. Toku154, howdy, Scribe. Definitely came at the ass end of the stream. Appreciate your work. Well, thank you, Toku. Appreciate it. Appreciate you attending. Yeah, there'll be another TED Excellence stream on Thursday for Ted's Giving. My annual Thanksgiving stream. Ted's Giving. I'll be doing probably at least 2 TED/TEDx talks on Thursday. So if you missed this one and you happen to be a Thanksgiving orphan or you have some free time on Thursday this week, I'll be doing that. Let's see. Any other arguments for squares to be circled? I understand it is going to be an uphill climb. You have to come up with a really good argument for these last 3. Because I'm pretty sure economic disparity didn't come up. Certainly, the one thing that, like, again, will block a blackout is going to be that self-vilification or wretchedness. Now, this entire talk was her explaining why she's not in the wrong. Rotten Corpse, glad you gave me something to listen to, Scribe, since I'm at the gym. Okay, I'll take it you're probably typing on your phone and autocomplete and everything. Well, I'm happy to provide you something to listen to. Let's see. Scribe will be at the same time. Yes, the Thanksgiving stream, as far as I'm intending to, we schedule for 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, Thanksgiving. I don't imagine I'm going to go earlier. I guess I could because I have the day off. I'll tell you what. Either way, I will give as much notice as I can tomorrow or early Thursday at the worst as to what the schedule will be. Probably tomorrow. I try to give that link out on the Wednesday ahead, just for consideration's sake of everybody's schedules. I'll give it out both on Twitter or X and also on the Discord server. Do you know I have a Discord server? I have a Discord server. Link to the Discord server is in the chat right now. And so if you click on that link, you'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you actually watch the stream, are not a bot, and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is mythandry. Yes, mythandry, as coined by Keeverdam. Just say, hello, mythandry, and I'll know that you watch the show. And as soon as I can, or one of my moderators will verify you on the Discord server, where we post stuff about other streams going on, all types of different chats and talks and things about stuff. Hey, Alex, what if I am a bot? Well, I'll tell you what. If you pass enough of the Turing test to listen to and repeat back the secret word in the proper context, as far as I'm concerned, you're Data from Star Trek, and you're just as human as the rest of us. How's that? Also, Miranda Stone's here. Well, golly gee whiz, it's Miranda Stone. But yeah, so with that, guys, I think we are out of squares. As always, if you have an argument for a square to be circled and I missed your comment here, or you're listening to this in the future and have an argument you'd like to give, you can either put a comment on this video or you can make your pitch on the Discord server, underneath the TED Excellence chat. And if your argument passes muster in my mind, even after the fact, I will circle a square on your behalf. And if it does equal to a bingo, I will make sure you are credited with getting to that bingo. Beyond that, again, Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern will be Ted's Giving, although I may start an hour or two earlier because of the holiday. I will let you guys know, hopefully by tomorrow evening at the latest. And if I do so, I'll try to give as much notice as I can. And I will do at least two, count them, 2 TED Talks with their own bingo cards, so we can all take in a little bit of the tryptophan of the Turkey Day and celebrate together. So looking forward to seeing you there. I don't want to write any checks I can't cash per se, but I know it's a weird one, I am dabbling with a scripted video right now. I know, it's been a while, but I saw something the other day, I got inspired. We'll see if that inspiration carries me all the way through to posting something, but don't want to say too much, otherwise I might make promises I can't keep. Beyond that, let me try to think of anything else. Oh yeah, Sunday. The Sunday stream at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. I'll go over some news stories of the week that I've found interesting, so look forward to that. Also, depending on what happens in the news, the world, or otherwise, there may be ambush streams along the way, so you'll want to follow me on the X or the Twitter at scribe_light, and also join the Discord server if you can, because I'll let you know there when I'm going to stream, when I decide to stream. Beyond that, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you so much for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. All of you from Midnight's Edge After Dark who've stuck around to this point, thank you guys so much for visiting. Hope you stick around for future streams and stuff. Nice to see you. And everybody who donated, either to myself or to the GoFundMes and fundraisers pinned to the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciated. With that, everybody, I'm going to close out this Tuesday. Hope everybody has a good rest of their Tuesday, a rest of their Wednesday ahead of you. If you have both Thursday and Friday off for the holiday, congratulations. If you only have Thursday off, because I know some people have that, I hope your Friday is nice and quiet and slow, and the weekend ahead of you is relaxing. And beyond that, I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.